engaging the community since 1970. This is WIS Awareness.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. Brooklyn Mack is a principal dancer with the Washington Ballet. He is in his 7th season with the company in Washington, D.C. At 29, he has spent more than 15 years practicing his craft and performing all over the world. He has earned some of the highest honors awarded in ballet. Now, despite the many distinctions, Brooklyn remains humble and grateful for every opportunity to inspire his audiences and knock down stereotypes. On a recent trip back home, I had the chance to sit down with Brooklyn at the Pavlovich Dance School in Columbia, where he got his start. I imagine even now, and especially when you started, there really weren't that many ballet dancers who looked like you.
Oh, absolutely. There very few, and still are not so many. I mean, at least not in professional companies or in prominent positions. There are dancers there. There definitely are dancers of color out there, you know, training and in schools. But it seems that there's definitely a disparity once it gets to the professional level. Of course, due to discrimination and due to stereotypes and other nonsensical reasons, also socioeconomic reasons as well.
What kind of challenge has that presented to you, or what barriers have you had to overcome specifically because of that, because of the lack of diversity?
You know, in the ballet world, there's a pervading stereotype that black ballet dancers cannot conform to the aesthetic requirements of ballet, that our bodies are somehow inferior or just not capable of performing the feats that are required of a ballet dancer, which is just utterly ridiculous, obviously, because we're all different. We all come in different shapes and sizes. And I mean, there's no culture or race of people that are all exactly the same. So it's almost laughable how ignorant and how stupid these stereotypes are, but yet they still pervade the culture and prevent progress.
They certainly still exist, even though you keep crushing them with every performance. And I mean, you continue to make history. And let's talk about one of those history-making performances, and that would be Swan Lake. Talk about just becoming a lead in that performance, what that meant to you, and really what message you think that sent to the world, or the message you wanted to send.
The second Swan Lake that I actually have done in my career as Siegfried, and but probably the more important one because Misty Copeland was my partner, and she's an African-American dancer, ballerina with American Ballet Theater. And it marked the first time that 2 African-Americans took the lead in this production in Swan Lake, in a major ballet company. And that was huge, really. It shouldn't have been, but at the same time it should have been, because I say it shouldn't have been because really art transcends the silly and superficial petty differences that separate us as human beings. But the reason why it was so big is because there are so many stereotypes and deterrents and walls and barriers that have been put up to prevent this sort of thing happening. So even in 2015, when it was a huge event, and I believe that it did already, but it is definitely my hope that it inspired countless African-American or Latino people of color, countless youth, to the possibilities and to the possibilities of what they can achieve, and served as a buffer to let them know that there are no limitations, no matter what you look at, no matter what you look like, no matter what background you come from. And so that's what I hope the outcome of the performance was. I also hope that it, you know, rattled the brains of these people that think so narrow-mindedly, and serve to open their eyes as well. Because unfortunately, many of those narrow-minded people are the people that are in power. So we need to change in a very holistic way, and it has to be a holistic approach. But more than anything, I want to reach the youth and the children, because they are the future. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. They are the future, and they will shape this world.
A lot of young people, as you mentioned, are seeing you, seeing people like Misty achieving these amazing historic feats and saying, well, I can be like them. But when you were growing up, you didn't really see that. So did that ever deter you? Did you ever think at any point in your career that maybe this isn't for me, maybe I should just quit, maybe my body just really isn't equipped to do this, I'm not meeting that aesthetic standard?
While I didn't see people who look like me on the stages or on the videos of ballets, I wasn't deterred, actually, and I attribute that to my upbringing. I was very, very lucky to have a tremendously strong mother, and I also attribute it very much to my uncle Robert, rest his soul. He told me, I'll never forget, when I was 3 years old, that I can do anything at all that I put my mind to. I can do it, and don't let anyone tell me any different. I remember when he told me that in the car and looking me deep in my eyes, and I took that to heart, and it resonated within me, and I never let it go.
Going deeper into your upbringing, your mom was a dancer as well, and I know she really pushed for you to get into this school, into the Pavlovich Dance School. When you were growing up, talk about her influence.
Yes, my mom, wow. My mom is a tremendous lady. She had tremendous influence. I mean, she was all I had. She was also someone who very much taught me not taking no for an answer and not giving up, even if there didn't seem like there was a way. As far as starting dance, she immediately set out when I came to her with the idea that, you know, I'll take ballet lessons if she'll take me to football tryouts or whatever. She immediately set out, unbeknownst to me, looking all over the city, and I think she even went all the way out to Irmo and stuff. She checked out a bunch of different ballet schools, 5 or 6 of them, and she settled on this one. She settled on Pavlovich Dance School. So we came here, and I remember when we walked in, Rudenko came up and he said, "May I help you?" And I felt kind of in a little snooty way, actually. But anyway, he said, "May I help you?" And my mom said, "Yes, I would like you to, you know, evaluate my son for a scholarship." And he said, "Well, we don't give scholarships." And she said, "Well, you haven't seen my son." And I was like, it was another one of those embarrassing mom moments. I was like, gosh, Mom, like, how can you be, you know, like propping me up like this? And I've never danced ballet a day in my life. I don't know anything about it. Like, but it was that attack and confidence and self-respect and integrity and strength that got me the opportunity, because Rudenko was completely taken aback and surprised, and he said, "All right, well, I guess I'll have a look at him."
Well, because your mom could have just walked out the door and said, "Okay, thank you," and Rudenko wouldn't have run after you.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, let me just think about it.
Not at all, and I'm sure that that many people in the same situation have just taken that first answer for face value and just said, okay, I guess not.
Do people still focus on race with you and not just look at you as the top, the cream of the crop, a superior dancer who's accomplished so much? Do they still go back to race and say, oh, well, he's good for an African American?
Oh, I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. Ever since I was young, it was always a worry in the back of my mind that would be a thing. I always wanted to be recognized for purely for my talent and what I contribute, rather than, oh, he's like the best black dancer, or to have that tag there. That was always something that I didn't want. As I got older, of course, I also realized that because of the disparity and because of the lack of representation in this field and other fields as well, that while it should transcend that, and I believe that it does when I dance, I truly do, that at the same time it is important to recognize to some degree the race, because it is still unfortunately
an issue.
An issue, yeah.
And people are going to see that. I mean, it's not like you can look at you and not know you're an African American, just like with Misty Copeland. I mean, that was many of the headlines when the two of you were performing together.
At the same time, it is my hope and my belief that when I am dancing and when the audience is watching, that's not really in their minds, you know? It's not like, oh wow, that black guy is awesome. I want to think that it's just wow, or oh my gosh, this is touching me, this is really moving me, and
the skill should speak for itself.
Yeah, and I really believe that high art speaks to the soul, and the soul is not about those differences. It's not. If we can free our minds and don't have limitations, I think we can solve all the world's problems.
Right. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Brooklyn, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to follow your career. It's been truly inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brooklyn still has a lot he wants to accomplish, including one day dancing for the Royal Ballet of London. Still to come on Awareness.
And that wasn't something that I was able to inject. That's something that he had to have within himself. And he had enough of that passion to make his dream be realized.
The woman who is on a mission to find the best ballet school for her son. Brooklyn's mom is in the studio with more on how she's seen her son transform and exceed expectations. Welcome back to Awareness. It started as a trade-off, ballet lessons for football tryouts. Once Brooklyn started ballet, he never looked back. And the woman we can all thank for that is Brooklyn's mother, LUCRETIA Mack. Thank you so much for being here with us.
And thank you for having me.
So I have to ask, did the football tryouts ever happen?
No, they did not. No, they did not. Once Brooklyn started, I think he was hooked. He was hooked before he realized it. And he was hooked before he realized it because it was quite challenging. I couldn't even begin to express to him what he was in, what was in store for him.
Right.
But when he started, he realized he was always able to he was always able to rise above any challenge.
Right.
But when he started ballet, he realized that it was more challenging than anything he had ever done, and he was like, I think it knocked him back, And but he fought very, very hard, worked really arduously, and he prevailed.
Right.
He had the tenacity to succeed and wasn't going to let anything stop him. And I think the fact that he couldn't do so many things when he started, that it was just, invigorated him to work harder.
Right.
He would work in the grocery stores. I mean, I would go to the grocery stores. This kid is jumping around in the aisles. I'd be at the dentist's office. He's on the lawn practicing. He was nonstop with it.
Do you continue to be impressed with your son and his performances?
Yes, I do, because I see that his thirst for ballet and his discipline to work not only in the studio, but when he leaves the studio. He'll get up in the middle of the night and be doing push-ups or whatever. He's always, always challenging his body. And And it shows with his performance because it's not something that, as I said, is just in the studio. He never leaves dance. He eats, sleeps, and drinks dance. And so his performances definitely reflect that. I see the growth, others see the growth. That's evidenced by his invites all over the world.
And you've accompanied him on many of his travels and seen his performances?
Yes, I have, and it's been a new introduction for me as well in seeing those performances, because each time I learn something new about my son, seeing him adapt to different roles and excel in his performances,
right.
Performing those roles.
Well, and many of us here in South Carolina, we know Brooklyn. I personally have followed him for the last couple of years. We understand how incredibly talented he is. And internationally, he's very well known, but maybe not as much so here in the U.S. Why do you think that is? Well,
unfortunately, Europe, I think, and other countries, I think they have vested more in art. And I like to think that the United States is, in the forefront, but sometimes in terms of how we receive artists, I would say that that's not the case. Unfortunately, we don't welcome everyone in certain areas of art. We're locked into stereotypes where we feel like particular art forms are for particular groups, and we don't expose our children, or we don't have the economic means to partake of art in certain areas. I know that I didn't have the means to allow Brooklyn to take ballet. That's why I had to ask for a scholarship. But there's a problem with the exposure. Exposure equals education, and a lot of the children here aren't exposed. And as I said, that comes from a situation of socioeconomics, and
there
also
are a variety of reasons really that could lead to that. But you did your due diligence to expose him to these wonderful opportunities, and now where he is with his career, are there any other roles you'd like to see him perform, or any dancers you'd like to see him dance with?
He's danced with some of the best of the best. I mean, Lauren Anderson, who's a prima ballerina with Houston Ballet. She's now retired. And she was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And unfortunately, he didn't get to dance with her until she retired, but the fact that she sought out Brooklyn Mack to partner her, for
That's
a performance, was definitely huge. And he's danced with Vince Valdez of Cuba. He's danced with Lara Turk of the Royal Ballet in England. And there's been several people, great Russian ballerinas. I can't name all. There's so many people that he's danced with. And most recently, as we're aware, with Misty Copeland, of course. But yes, there is one person that I'm looking forward to, and that I had traveled all the way to South Africa in hopes of seeing Brooklyn perform with this young lady. And this is MICHAELA DEPRINCE. She's an orphan from Sierra Leone who's just, her ballet performance technique is just phenomenal. And I understand that she and Brooklyn will perform in Mexico in July. And so I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Now, whenever I talk to Brooklyn, it's very evident that he does not place himself in any kind of box. He's a very versatile performer. He sees himself as an artist, as a dancer, before he even thinks about race, even though other people may see things opposite. What do you want the world to really know about who your son is as a person and as a dancer?
As a person, I want them to know that he is just that. He has a love of people. He wants to share his art and share his talent. And that this is an individual who has worked very, very hard to accomplish what he has accomplished. And I think that I want people to respect that and to embrace that. And not only for Brooklyn, but as a stepping stone, and realizing that this is something that can be for other children as well, irrespective of your background. And I think that as a male dancer, he has set a precedence. As a black male dancer, as an African American male dancer, he has set a precedence because he has broken the mold, so to speak. Classical ballet is something that has been typically performed by Caucasians. It's considered a Caucasian art. We don't have the right bodies. It's, you know, at least that's the perspective that, you know, that has been presented. But Brooklyn has definitely annihilated that notion. You know, he's made his body do things that was thought not possible. And he's done it to a level of perfection that has commanded his performance around the globe. Right. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of his person, and I want the world to know about his art and to see him simply as an artist. As Brooklyn says, art transcends. You know, it transcends culture. It's the uniting force in the world, and truly it is. And I want them to see him as part of that uniting force.
Well, Lucretia Mack, thank you so much for raising him and helping him to share his gift with all of us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Visit our Awareness Facebook page where you will hear from Misty Copeland and Brooklyn Mack about funding for the arts and diversity when they were recently honored in the city of Columbia. Thank you so much for watching Awareness. Until next time, I'm Meaghan Norman. This is Awareness.